Good morning. We are here with Jeff Kirsten, Wisconsin agency liaison from the Wisconsin Bureau of Consumer Protection. And today we are going to talk about senior scams. Take it away, Jeff.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks so much for having me. Correct, we're here to talk about senior scams. A lot of scams out there that target seniors. So my name's Jeff. I work for the state of Wisconsin Bureau of Consumer Protection. A little background about myself. I was a police officer for about 13 years. So I've seen a lot of scams from the law enforcement side of things. I was an investigator for the Bureau of Consumer Protection for about a year before taking this position. So I've seen firsthand how we help people recover from scams. And I want to make that distinction kind of right away, is that we're not law enforcement. We don't have the authority here at Consumer Protection to go after the criminals. That's law enforcement's job. But what we do is we work to try to help people recover money when they've lost it to a scam. And there's so many different ones out there. Some are more difficult to try to recover the money than others, but we'll certainly do our best. So let's just jump right into it here. I've got the ability to share my screen if I can find my buttons. There we are. All right, so we'll just start off with a few kind of stats here to kind of set the stage. This comes right from the FTC. Their data book was just released about a month ago. So some daunting numbers here, 5.7 million reports of scams. And again, this is just what gets reported to the federal government. I really fear that there's a lot of scams that take place out there where the victims are embarrassed that they fell for a scam and they don't want to admit to law enforcement or family members that they lost money, and these numbers could actually be higher than what is just getting reported. You may find it interesting that we actually find younger people fall victim to scams at a higher rate than our seniors. But there's kind of, bad news and bad news when it comes to this, is that yes, younger people may fall victim at a higher rate, but when somebody in their 20s and 30s falls victim to a scam, on average, they don't tend to lose as much money. That's the bad news for our seniors, is that when they fall victim to a scam, on average, they tend to lose a lot more money. Here's kind of some of those numbers. You can see, 2 to 3 times as much more money when somebody age 70 plus falls victim to a scam. Identity theft reports are up. 1 in 5 people report losing money. I'm going to kind of fly through these first couple slides fast because we know it's an issue. There's so many scams out there. We're all sick and tired of the phone calls, the emails, the text messages. Clearly, the criminals are making money doing it. Otherwise, they probably would have given up trying to scam us a long time ago. But yeah, just 20% of people have reported losing money to a scam. You can see, here's another graph just showing the numbers, skyrocketing up. Wisconsin actually not a bad ranking. It ranks 41st, but you kind of look at this backwards. It confused me when I first saw this report from the FTC, which means we're actually in the top 10 for the lowest number of scams. They kind of ranked it backwards. There's 40 other states that have higher scam numbers than we do. So not too bad here, but it's certainly a nationwide problem. All right, so before we jump into some of the different scams that are out there and kind of break those down, I just want to cover this. Gift cards are meant for gifts, not for anything else. And I know that sounds very simple and very elementary, but it is just that simple. They're only meant to be given to family and friends as gifts. Whenever you're talking to somebody, whether it's over the phone, email, text conversation, and the conversation turns towards money being exchanged hands, someone tries to talk you into using a prepaid gift card, it's almost 100% that is a scam. Criminals want you to pay with a prepaid gift card because it makes it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for law enforcement or even ourselves at the state here to try to recover that money. It's a way that the money can instantly change hands, and the paper trail is almost non-existent if law enforcement was to issue a subpoena and try to track that money down. Again, just a few more stats here, and then we'll get into the actual scams. Phone calls, text, email, the number one way that they try to get a hold of us and scam us. Now, are there other methods out there where they, do some criminals send you stuff in the mail or pay for ads on social media, pop-up windows on computers? Certainly, but phone calls, emails, and text are the number 1, 2, and 3 ways they try to scam us. All right, so with our phones, let's talk about some big picture things. Caller ID, you just cannot trust caller ID. It's called spoofing. The scammers can put whatever number they want on your caller ID. So they can make it look like a real number, that if you were to look that number up on a quick internet search, it would actually come back to a real business or police department or government agency. But that, just because it shows up on caller ID, doesn't mean that that's who's calling you. The scammers found out a long time ago that people are less likely to answer a phone call from some area code they don't recognize. So now often our scam phone calls that show up on our phones, the area code matches our number, even the prefix might match the number, and then the last 4 are just off by, a little bit. And it's called neighbor spoofing. It's meant to just catch you off guard that, oh, this must be somebody I know and I just don't have them programmed into my phone. Again, just tricks to get you to answer the phone. If you look at it from the criminal standpoint, step number 1 to get you to fall for a scam, they got to get you to answer the phone or respond to that email or text. So our advice would be, don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the number. Now, I know that's very easy for me to sit here and say, if you're in a position in life where you don't have to answer the phone if you don't recognize the number, that is what I recommend. But that doesn't work for everybody. Some people are in sales and they're realtors and business professionals. And so when their phones ring, oftentimes people have to answer. That's where it's much more difficult to sort through the real phone calls from the fake phone calls. I actually saw a stat the other day that 50% of all phone calls made over cellular networks are scams. So just think about that for a second. For every legitimate phone call that we make, there's one out there that's just trying to scam us out of our information or our money. Robocalls, those are the ones where the computers call us up. Sometimes there'll be the letter V and a whole bunch of numbers on your caller ID, or it might just be 5 numbers long. That usually is indicates that it's a computer making that call. That's the one, if you answer, there's 2 or 3 seconds of silence, and then you hear a click, and then often a recorded message starts. You can hang up on those right away. There's a scam out there, where they will try to get you to say yes. Can you hear me okay? And before you know it, you've said yes, and they record your voice saying yes. Probably most often associated with a tech support scam or something where they sell the victim a yearly service. Let's just say antivirus coverage on your computer for $500 a month. Well, then if you later complain that you didn't opt in for that, they have a recording of your voice saying yes. It's best not to say anything. I wish it was as easy as just blocking phone numbers to get these individuals to stop calling. It's unfortunately not that simple, because when you block a phone number, all you're doing is blocking the number that shows up on caller ID. And we already know that's not really the number that they're calling from. That's just a fake number trying to entice us to answer. I wish there was some magic formula I could give you to cut down on this. There are a few things you can do with your, whether you have a landline or a cell phone. You can contact your phone service provider. Often, phone companies have blockers they can put in place on your line. Often they're free, but they won't put them in place unless you call up and ask for them. With your smartphones, well, our smartphones are getting better and better. If you notice that a lot of times now it'll say scam alert or medium risk telemarketer. For sure, if you see that, don't answer. There are some apps that you can download to block robocalls and scam phone calls. Some are free, some you have to pay money for, so people can make their own decisions on that. And then lastly, and this is a little bit more extreme, but it does stop a lot of scam phone calls, but it doesn't work for everybody. is that on your smartphones, you can go into your phone app. And I know this works on Android-based phones and iPhones. And in the phone app, you can set it so that your phone will not ring unless that the caller is someone you actually have programmed into your address book. So it'll cut down on all of those unknown calls. They'll just go right to voicemail, and you can check the voicemails later. But just understand that if you do that, you may miss out on an important real phone call as well. If somebody from the doctor's office or a potential employer is calling and you just don't have that number programmed into your phone's not going to ring. You'll get the voicemail, but you won't be able to answer it in real time. So that works for some people and it doesn't work for others. Don't just call us. They send us emails and text messages. I'm sure many people that are listening to me right now have received a text message from Amazon, like you see on the screen, that somebody just charged something to your Amazon account, or in this example, won some AirPods. They like to pick on popular companies because it's called phishing. They're just casting out bait, and they're hoping that this particular message will make sense to somebody. And really, that's how a lot of these scams work. When we get the phone call, the email, the text message that, completely out of the blue, that makes no sense, well, that's the easy scam to detect and not fall for. But it's just a matter of time before one of these communications comes through and something is going on in your real life that it just, makes sense. Right now we're in tax season. Or you just ordered something on Amazon, the day before, and then all of a sudden this message shows up, and it catches you at that weak moment where you think this must be related to that order you placed yesterday, or something going on with your taxes, and now it looks like the IRS is calling. When something clicks and makes sense, that's the more scary scam. That's the easier one to fall for. With text messages and emails, just like spoofing on our caller IDs, there's ways that the scammers can hide their email addresses and phone numbers that they're texting from. Generally, when you receive a communication, again, an email, a text, a phone call, you really just don't know who that came from, because there's just too many ways for the criminals to hide where that call, email, or text is coming from. So whenever you receive a communication, you really have to be on your toes. Again, not just emails, texts, and phone calls. You might see things like this on your social media feeds. Too good to be true. There's no such thing as just sitting at home and filling out surveys and winning, $500,000 gift cards. A lot of times you'll see this in the last 3 months of the year, October, November, December, leading up to the holidays, and they're pulling out people's heartstrings that may not be able to afford gifts for the holiday season. But again, just too good to be true. By the time you go through this and fill out these surveys, you've given away so much personal information, and in the end, you get nothing to show for it. And then you're just at a higher risk of having somebody steal your identity with that personal information. Excuse me. Okay, some different scams out there, imposter scams. They like to pick on the government. IRS, law enforcement, Social Security, popular choices. I mentioned IRS earlier. We're in tax season right now. They will call you up, pretend to be the IRS, threaten that you have back taxes, that they're going to send the police to your house and arrest you if you don't pay them over the phone right now. Really scary sounding stuff. But that's not how the real IRS does business. Generally, we know that federal agencies, Social Security, IRS, will never call us. And that's mainly true. I think it's more accurate to say that they'll never initiate phone contact with us. But what if something was going on in your real life related to Social Security or IRS, and just 3 days ago you had reached out to them and you were on hold for an hour and a half trying to get a hold of somebody, and now 3 days later here comes an incoming phone call. It looks like it's from the IRS or Social Security, and again, you just connect those dots of, oh, this must be them calling me back, when in reality it's just a complete coincidence that you just got the scam phone call at that time. Again, that's the more scary one, that easier to fall for that scam. They'll pretend to be law enforcement, warrant for your arrest, demand you to pay fines over the phone. I can tell you as a prior law enforcement officer, that's not something that takes place over the phone. If somebody really has a warrant for their arrest, that's often a face-to-face conversation law enforcement wants to have with somebody. But again, just scare tactics to just people's money or information. So government scams, popular choice. Utility scams, water, gas, electric company, even the phone company. Lots of different ways that this scam can go. Crews on the way to your house right now to cut off your water or electricity or heat because you're behind on a bill. There's often a theme with scams that you have to take action now or bad things are going to happen. Big red flag that is probably a scam. Even if somebody was behind on a water bill or gas or electric, you probably would have received so many, notifications in the mail prior to a crew actually being on the way to your house to cut off that service. But again, they're just trying to catch you at that weak moment where you don't have time to think about it. You don't have time to look into it, and maybe it's only $100 or a couple $100, and it just makes it easier for the victim to just pay that and not have to worry about it. But all of this could be resolved by simply looking up real contact information for the utility company in question, calling them up, asking them, what's going on with your account, and most likely what you'll receive back in that situation is that your account is fine and that was just a scam, and it can put your mind at ease. Tech support, I mentioned this one earlier. Again, lots of different ways that this particular scam can go. They'll pretend to be Microsoft, Apple, Google. They pick on the big companies. Maybe a pop-up window on your computer that your computer is infected with a virus. But really, again, lots of ways this scam can go. But one particularly bad way is they want to get into your computer. So I'm speaking to you right now on a state-issued laptop where I don't have access to install programs on this computer. Our IT department keeps it pretty well locked down. If I need something, I put in a request, and one of our IT individuals will reach out to me, and they send me a link, and they have me click on that link, and I sit back and I can watch somebody else move the mouse around on my screen, and remotely they can install whatever program I need or fix whatever's going on. That's great because I actually know who those people are. I can walk up to the third story of the building I'm sitting in right now, and I can see them face to face. But the criminals want to do the same thing. They want to send you a link, have you click on that link, and then when they start moving the mouse around on your screen, that means that they're in your computer. And once they're in your computer, they can do whatever they like. They can install viruses, malware programs, ransomware. Ransomware is the new #1 form of malware. Excuse me. It will lock your computer down. No joke. I mean, you can't push the power button for 10 seconds. You can do a hard reboot. There's no way to turn your computer back on without putting in a security key to unlock it. Well, then they call you up and they demand money to give you that security key. So you have to ask yourself, what all the information that's on your computer, what would that be worth to you? Is that where all the family photos are? Is that where the family business is with all the records? Is that bank records, tax records? If everything is on your computer and it's not backed up, and now somebody is holding that over your head, they will extort money out of the victim to unlock that information. Or like I mentioned earlier, just the fake antivirus coverage for $500 a year, and they're really offering no service at all. They're just stealing money from people, and often the story I hear with that is 3 months later, all of a sudden now they call up and there's a new virus out there, and they want to, it's going to cost an extra couple $100 to fix this virus, and it never ends. Once they get the victim to pay once, they will continue to come up with excuses and lies in order to keep those payments coming in. Another red flag of a scam. Romance relationship, sweetheart scams. Unfortunately, it seems like this particular type of scam only really gets mentioned around Valentine's Day, but these happen year round. These can be long-term scams. I've heard of people being tied up in these scams for years, where to the point where the victim doesn't even want to believe or doesn't believe that they're the victim of a scam. They think it's real. A lot of people meet online. Some red flags that it could be a romance scam is that the other party refuses to meet the person face to face. They have every excuse in the book of why they can't meet. They're common excuses. They're in the military. They're serving overseas. They have to have a certain type of surgery before they're allowed to fly on a plane. So they will refuse to meet the victim face to face. But then usually pretty early on in the relationship, they start to profess that they love the person, and then something bad is going to happen in their life, and now they start asking for money, and they just start pulling on that heartstring to have the victim send money. And again, once the victim pays once, it almost becomes easier for the scammer to just come up with new stories and new lies to continue to keep those payments coming. Lottery contests, sweepstakes scams, lots of different versions of this. I personally have talked to Wisconsin consumers on our consumer protection hotline number, and you can hear it in their voice. They're excited. They think they just won something, and they're almost, arguing with you on the phone that no, you don't understand. Like, this is real. The film crew is going to show up to my house tomorrow with a brand new, Mercedes and a giant check, and this is happening. But somewhere in the back of their minds, they must know that something's up because they're calling us and they're trying to get verification. They want us to tell them it's real, and unfortunately, we have to tell them it's not. It can literally sound like somebody is, going to show up tomorrow, but the conversation will always turn towards the victim having to pay something out of pocket prior to getting to those winnings. Huge red flag of a scam. If you actually win something, you never have to pay out of pocket. So think about somebody going to a casino and hitting a jackpot, winning some money. Might you be on the hook for taxes? Yes, absolutely. And if it's over a certain dollar amount, the casino has to fill out tax paperwork. But they will take the taxes out of the winnings and they give the person what's left over. Paying out of pocket is the big red flag that this is fake. And they have every excuse in the book, a shipping fee, processing fee, getting something through customs, whatever made up story just to try to entice somebody to pay some money. And, a couple $1,000s doesn't sound like a whole lot when somebody thinks that they won millions. Again, just like romance games, people can get tied up in these for years and lose, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of those years, where they think this next payment is just going to be the last one where they finally get to their winnings. Grandparent scam. I travel all over the state doing presentations to senior groups, and I hardly have ever stood in front of a room full of seniors and not had numerous people raise their hand that they've received this phone call. This is a really popular scam. They will pretend to be a grandchild that's either been involved in a crash or they've been arrested. And, some of the scams are not very well thought out by the criminals. They don't know the name of the grandchild. They don't have any of those details. They try to trick the victim into giving some of those details. But again, then the more scary version of the scam is when scammer sees something on social media, Facebook, of where the real grandchild is traveling for, let's say, spring break, which is going on for a lot of school districts right now. And if they have those little tidbits of the itinerary and the grandchild's name, it makes it sound so much more believable. So again, they'll pretend to be the grandchild that's been involved in a crash or they've been arrested, and don't tell mom and dad, and just send me some money, help me get out of this problem. And often it involves a crash involving a broken nose, which seems very oddly specific. Or one senior up in Chippewa Falls told me that they received this call and the person claimed to have nasal problems due to COVID. But again, they were picking on the nose. And that is in case the grandparent challenges them over the phone and says, well, you don't sound like my grandson or granddaughter. They immediately have a built-in excuse of why they sound different. So now here's the thing. Do grandchildren not always make the best decisions? right? It happens. People get involved in crashes, people get arrested. So how do you sort through the real grandchild in distress, or is this a criminal just pretending to be my grandchild? So one low tech thing that you can do is just create a family password, just a unique password that just you and the family members know. Don't post it on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. Keep it quiet. Have you ever got this call and just for a second you thought it was real? Ask for the family password. If you're talking to an identity thief or a scammer, most likely at that point they're just going to hang up with you because they know they can't fool you from that point on. And if you're talking to your real family member on the phone, hopefully they remember the family password so they can prove that's who they really are. Check overpayment scams. This is an old one, but it's still around. If you ever try to sell something online, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, places like that, very often you're going to get a lot of people reaching out to you that want to buy whatever you're selling, but they're going to pay you with a check that for more than whatever you're asking, which big red flag, right? Nobody's going to pay more than what you're actually asking, but they'll have excuses of why this makes sense. The check was already written out. It's a cashier's check. It's a bank check. It's real. It's legit. And here's what I want you to do. You go ahead. Deposit it into your bank. You'll see that the check is real. Keep an extra couple $100 for yourself, and then send me the rest. Here's how the scam works: is that when you deposit a check into the bank, federal law says that the bank has to make those funds available to you immediately, even though the bank hasn't cleared the check yet. Some of these fake checks can take weeks before they finally will bounce and not clear, but they will eventually bounce. And if you already now sent the money back to the scammer, or some of the money back to the scammer, when that check bounces, your bank is going to be reaching out to you wanting that money back. Well, if it's already gone, the victim is going to be the one who's on the hook for losing that money. I've even heard stories of people taking these checks to the bank and having a bank teller look at them, and they look legit, but big red flag. No one's going to ever pay you more than what you're asking for an item. And there's other better ways of receiving money during online transactions. If you are going to sell something, there's really good services out there that your bank can help you with for those types of transactions. Student loan scams. I know this is not necessarily related to senior scams, but I threw it in here just because it's popular. There's a lot of talk in the media right now about student loans and student loan forgiveness, and is something going to happen? Whenever there's something popular like that, the scammers pick up on it, and they're going to try to take advantage of those situations. So they'll trick people into giving their FSA IDs and trick people to sending their loan payments to somewhere other than their lender. Someone promises that they can get you out of student loans. 100% that's a scam. Nobody can make that guarantee upfront. There's upfront fees. That is a scam. So if you have student loans, be aware of this. But even if you have, younger family members that have student loans, you might want to share this information with them as well so they can protect themselves. Auto warranty scam. This has almost become a joke. We're trying to reach a bunch of cars auto warranty. It is a scam that's still out there. Often it's a robocall. It's a recording that's left on your line. If you listen to this recording, it'll say talk one to a person, and if you press 1, it'll certainly put a human on the line with you, and they'll try to scam you out of your information or your money. But often, if you continue to listen to those messages from these robocalls, it'll say press 2 or press a different button to end this call and be placed on the do not call list. Which sounds great, right? Because we all want these phone calls to end. Don't push any buttons on your phone. All that does is tend to lead to more scam phone calls. All right, charity scam. This one gets a little tricky. We haven't talked about the do not call list in Wisconsin yet, but charities are nonprofit. They don't have to follow the do not call list. So we're the folks at the state that administer the do not call list. And often people, tell me how it doesn't work because they still get these scam phone calls. The do not call list is for telemarketing phone calls. That's where a real business wants to call you up and sell you a product or a service. Unfortunately, criminals, they're already breaking the law, so they're not worried about breaking the do not call list law, and they'll call us up anyway. So here's the best way to look at it. There's value in being on the do not call list, because when you're on the do not call list and you're looking at your caller ID and it's a number you don't recognize, well, it's not a real business, because hey, you're on the do not call list. So by default, that number you don't recognize, it's probably just a scam phone call. It's easier to ignore. But then there's charities. And like I mentioned earlier, they're nonprofits, so they don't have to follow the do not call list. So now here comes an incoming phone call. Looks like it's from a charity. Well, how do we know whether that's real or not? And here's the bottom line. You don't. So the only advice I can give you is just never, ever, ever give money to a charity when you receive the call. Don't let a charity find you. If you want to give money to a charity, you do the research and you find the charity that you want to give your money to. There is a really good website out there called charitynavigator.org. Has every charity in the US listed, kind of gives them a letter grade on how good they are at distributing money. You can see where the money goes, so you can find something that's in line with your views if you're looking for a charity. Investment scams, lots of different investment scams out there. You hear a lot about cryptocurrency, precious metals. These investment scams, they're not covered by us in Bureau of Consumer Protection. It would be the Department of Financial Institutions Division of Securities, and I put their information up on the screen here. Lots of different scams related to this. And I'm not necessarily asking everybody to remember this. If somebody gets scammed, you might not know which state agency to go to. If somebody files a complaint with us, if it's something that we can handle, we're really good at handling it ourselves. And if it's not something that we can handle, we're really good at getting it to the correct state agency for the complainant. So we can send it right over to DFI if somebody just files with the wrong agency, and DFI can do the same thing with us. Lots of different investment schemes out there. Not really our area, but there is a state agency out there to help people. I just got a couple slides left here.
Can I ask a question about the previous slide? Yeah. What's the pump and dump scheme?
Oh, pump and dump. So you see that a lot with crypto right now, is that they'll create some new cryptocurrency, and there'll be all these social media posts, and they'll be talking about it on Twitter, and it'll kind of pump up the price, and they'll get everybody to buy into it, which drives the price up. And then the people who created the new cryptocurrency will then dump it and sell it at that higher price before everybody else who invested in it even has a chance to sell. It's not just crypto. That's an old school way in the stock market. That's what the SEC will investigate, those types of schemes where they pump the price up and then dump it, and all those investors are left losing all their money.
Thank you.
So a little bit more about crypto. We put this slide in here just because it is so popular. Cryptocurrency, it's a computer-based digital currency. It's meant for, it was created for peer-to-peer transactions. There's something called a blockchain with all cryptocurrencies that is a historical record of all transactions. So Bitcoin is, one of the first, if not the first, created back in like 2009. You can go to the blockchain, it's public record, and you can look all the way back to 2009 and see the first Bitcoin that was mined and where that coin got transferred to, what wallet it was sent to. All of that is public knowledge. When something does hit the blockchain, it is permanent. And that's a unique thing about crypto, is that there is no reversing it. It only moves forward. So if someone hacks into an account and transfers all that money, as soon as that hits the blockchain, there's nobody to call, no customer service. There's no government agency that can then reverse that transaction and get that money back. So a lot of crypto transactions are legit. I saw a stat that about 98% of crypto transactions are legit. I mean, are there scams? Yes. But there's lots of other ways that people can lose their money with cryptocurrency. If somebody hacks into your wallet, It's called SIM swapping, where they'll take over somebody's phone to get access to that wallet when there's huge money like that involved. If they're able to transfer that money out, there's just no way to reverse that. So I kind of like to think of crypto as like the Wild West, or going to the casino. Don't play with money that you're not willing to lose, because there's a good chance you might lose it. And if you do, there's no recourse. Just a couple slides left here for you. Warning signs of scams. I think we covered a lot of this. Wiring money, just like gift cards, huge red flag. The need to verify information. So this is trickier than you think it would be. When we call up a bank or a credit reporting agency or a government agency, that business doesn't know who's calling them. So a lot of times when we make the phone call, we do have to verify some information over the phone to prove that we are who we say we are. But it never happens in the opposite. When a business calls us, you never have to verify that information. You just kind of, if somebody gets that mixed up in their head, they might find themselves on the phone with somebody and get tricked into giving away personal information. Phone calls, emails, texts that are, urgent, take action now, or bad things are going to happen, or they become threatening or try to intimidate somebody. Huge red flag. That's a scam. The grandparent scam. Keep it secret. Shh, don't tell mom and dad. We talked about governments, entities making phone calls, not initiating phone calls to us, but how that could come back and kind of if there's something going on in our personal lives where that phone call makes sense. That's the more scary version of a scam. Clicking links. So when the scams come in on emails and text messages, often there'll be a blue hyperlink that the scammers want somebody to click on. With a laptop, or a desk-based computer, you can hover your mouse pointer over that link and you can see where it actually goes. But on your phone, there's no way to do that. So you want to be really careful about ever clicking links from unsolicited communications. All phones can be compromised if the wrong link is clicked. So some things to do to protect yourself. I mentioned this earlier. I think we covered all of this. Don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the number. Talked about some different strategies of trying to cut down on some of these phone calls, emails, text messages. Verifying information over the phone, never pay with gift cards or wiring money. Treat your personal information like cash, because that's what it's worth to the criminals. These scams will sometimes try to steal our money, and we know that they're after our money, but sometimes they'll try to steal our personal information and then use it to commit identity theft. And if someone does fall victim to a scam, we want them to report it. I can't make any guarantees that we're going to get the money back, but we certainly will try. Call law enforcement, report it to us. You can do that right through our website. I'm going to walk through that process on the next slide. If anything, it lets us know what scams are out there, and we can use that information to protect others. The easiest way to file a complaint with us is right through our website, listed right there, the www.datcp.wi.gov. Just file a general consumer complaint. It's a really easy online form to fill out. Your information, as much information as you know about the business or the scammer in this instance. It's a little narrative box where you can type up what's going on, and then you're welcome to upload documents related to that complaint. If you don't want to do it over the computer, that's fine as well. Just call our 1-800 number, 422-7128, and we can email you the complaint form, or we can mail you a paper copy. However, we can get the complaint form to the victim, have them fill that out and get it back to us. We'll get that assigned to one of our mediators, and we'll start working on that and see what we can do. And with that kind of wraps up my presentation. Let me know if there's any questions.
Yeah, I almost forgot about this, so I was late. Was this being recorded?
It is, yep.
Okay. But what I caught was informative, so thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. And then where's the recording going to be posted?
We will post it on our YouTube channel
Excellent.
for 30 days, I guess is the limit. So thank you, Jeff. It's unfortunate to know that there are people out there that put so much effort into doing this to other people, victimizing them. But this is good information for anyone to have.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me. And we'll see you next month for a presentation on landlord tenant law.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.